You know the moment, the crying, the meltdown, the complete inability to function that has been going on for 20 minutes, and you have tried everything and you are out of options and out of patience, and you reach for the phone or the tablet and you hand it over. And it works. Instantly. Like a switch. The silence that follows is the most complicated silence in modern parenting. Because half of you is relieved, and the other half is already forming the question, am I doing something wrong? Here is the honest answer. You are not doing something wrong. You are doing the only thing that works, because nobody ever built the thing that was supposed to work instead. And in Japan, they built it. Cultural Contrast 1, Shizen, Nature as Nervous System Medicine. In Japan, children spend time outside every single day. Not as a reward, not as a scheduled activity, not weather permitting or when the week is not too full. Every day. As a non-negotiable part of childhood. The Japanese word shizen means nature, and in Japanese parenting culture, access to natural environments is not considered a leisure activity for children. It is considered a developmental necessity, as fundamental as food. And the neuroscience completely agrees. Time in natural environments, trees, grass, soil, open sky, moving water, lowers cortisol measurably in children. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It reduces the physiological markers of stress in ways that no indoor environment has been shown to replicate. A child who spends time in nature every day is a child whose stress response system gets a genuine reset every day. Not managed. Reset. And a nervous system that resets daily has a significantly higher tolerance for frustration, for boredom, for the ordinary discomforts of childhood that, without that reset, become the triggers that send a child reaching for a screen. Cultural Contrast 2, Ma, the power of empty space. Here is the one that will feel most uncomfortable to Western parents. In Japanese culture, there is a concept called ma. It means empty space, pause, the silence between sounds, the gap between activities. And in Japanese parenting culture, ma is not something to fill. It is something to inhabit. Japanese children are not rushed from one stimulating activity to the next. They are allowed, regularly, deliberately, to simply be. With nothing happening, with no input arriving, with no one entertaining or educating or engaging them. Western parenting culture treats that kind of emptiness as a problem, a gap that needs filling, and screens fill it perfectly, instantly, compellingly, without any effort from parent or child. But here is what happens inside a child's brain during genuine empty space. Something activates that cannot activate any other way. The brain shifts into a mode that neuroscientists have spent decades studying, a state of internal processing, creativity, and emotional digestion that only becomes available when external stimulation stops. A child who is comfortable with emptiness is a child whose brain has been given what it needs to process the day, generate its own engagement, and return to calm under its own power. That is not nothing. That is the foundation of self-regulation. Cultural Contrast 3, Emotional Narration as Daily Practice. Japanese parents talk about feelings constantly, not in big therapeutic conversations, in tiny, daily, ordinary moments that add up to something significant over time. When a child is frustrated, the Japanese parent names it. When a child is sad, the Japanese parent names it. When a child is overwhelmed, the Japanese parent names it, calmly, accurately, without rushing to fix it or distract from it. This is not a parenting technique. In Japanese culture, it is simply how adults speak to children, with the assumption that the child's emotional experience is real and worth naming and worth sitting with for a moment before moving past it. And what this builds in a child's brain over years of daily practice is extraordinary. An emotional vocabulary, an internal map of what feelings feel like, and what they are called, and what to do with them. A child with a large emotional vocabulary does not reach for a screen when a feeling gets too big. They reach for a word, and the word in the research on emotional regulation is enough to begin bringing the nervous system back from the edge. Every single time. Cultural contrast 4. Mindful transitions. Watch how a Japanese parent moves a child from one activity to the next. There is warning. There is preparation. There is a brief ritual, a word, a gesture, a consistent signal that tells the child's nervous system that a change is coming, that something is ending and something else is beginning. And then there is a pause, a small in-between space where the ending is acknowledged before the next thing begins. Western parenting culture tends to move fast. One thing ending and the next thing beginning with minimal space in between. And for a child who has been using a screen where the stimulation is continuous and the ending is abrupt, the transition out is one of the most dysregulating experiences of their day. The screen removal meltdown is not about the screen. It is about a nervous system that was never taught how to transition, that was never given consistent, gentle, predictable signals that change was coming and that change was survivable. Japanese children transition more smoothly because they have been practicing transitions, with warning, with ritual, with space, since they were very small. The calm at the end of an activity was built long before the activity ended. Cultural contrast 5. The body before the mind. When a Japanese child is dysregulated, upset, overwhelmed, emotionally flooded, the first response in Japanese parenting culture is almost never verbal. It is physical, a hand on the back, a slow rocking movement, a warm bath, a walk outside, a change of physical environment, something the body can feel before the mind is asked to process anything. Japanese parenting culture understands something that Western parenting culture tends to skip in the rush to talk through feelings and explain and reason. A dysregulated nervous system is a body problem before it is a thinking problem, and the body needs to be addressed first. A child who has been given physical regulation tools, whose nervous system has learned that the body can be the pathway back to calm, does not need a screen to get there. They already know another way. Now here is the reframe that changes everything. The screen is not the problem. The screen is an answer, a very effective, very immediate answer to a question that a child's nervous system is asking. How do I regulate right now? How do I get from overwhelmed to calm? What do I reach for when the feeling is too big? And if 5 specific inputs were never built, if the child never had daily nature, never learned to sit with emptiness, never developed an emotional vocabulary, never practiced transitions, never learned to use the body as a pathway to calm, then when the question gets asked, the nervous system looks for an answer. And the screen is right there, bright, immediate, completely reliable at producing the neurological state the child is searching for. The screen did not create the dependency. The empty developmental space created the dependency. The screen just moved in and filled it. And here is what needs to be said clearly to every parent who is watching this with a screen in their child's hand right now. You did not fail your child. You were handed a child with a nervous system that needed 5 specific inputs. And nobody gave you those inputs. Nobody explained what they were or why they mattered, or what would happen to a developing nervous system that grew up without them. You were given a screen and a child and a quiet suggestion that maybe you should probably limit screen time, without anyone telling you what to offer instead. You reached for the thing that worked because it was the only thing that worked. That is not failure. That is resourcefulness under impossible conditions. Here is where the research genuinely divides. Is screen time actually harmful to children, or is the panic around it overblown? One side says the evidence is clear, that screens displace physical activity, face-to-face interaction, unstructured play, and sleep, that the developing brain is shaped by its experiences, and screen-heavy experiences shape it in specific ways that have measurable consequences for attention, regulation, and social development. The other side says that the research is correlational, not causal, that screens themselves are not the villain, that what matters is context, content, and what the screen is replacing. That moderate use in the right circumstances has negligible effects. Both sides agree on one thing. What a screen replaces matters more than the screen itself. And the 5 things it tends to replace, nature, stillness, emotional narration, transition practice, physical grounding, are the exact 5 things that build a nervous system capable of regulating without it. Neuroscientists have a name for the brain state that activates during genuine boredom and unstructured quiet. It is called the default mode network, and it is one of the most important neurological states a developing brain can access. When external stimulation stops, when a child is genuinely bored, genuinely unstimulated, genuinely left alone with nothing happening, the default mode network activates, and inside that state, the brain does things it cannot do any other time. It processes emotions from the day. It generates creative connections. It rehearses social scenarios. It consolidates memory. It practices the internal narrative that becomes the child's sense of self. The default mode network is not empty brain time. It is maintenance time, growth time, the neurological equivalent of the work that happens in a garden overnight when no one is watching. Screens prevent this state from ever activating. Every moment a child is on a screen is a moment the default mode network stays offline. Japanese children access this state daily, through through unstructured outdoor time, through the ordinary quiet that Japanese parenting culture protects instead of fills. And the nervous systems that grow up with access to it are nervous systems that can regulate, create, and return to calm under their own power. Here is what all 5 Japanese practices have in common. Every single one of them builds something inside the child's nervous system that makes external regulation tools unnecessary. Shizen builds a stress response system that resets daily. Ma builds a brain that can generate its own calm. Emotional narration builds a vocabulary that makes feelings manageable. Mindful transitions build a nervous system that handles change without falling apart. Physical grounding builds a body that knows how to come back from overwhelm. Japanese children do not need screens to stay calm because their nervous systems were built with everything the screen was going to replace. The screen is not missing from Japanese childhood. The need for it is. But here is the question that follows. If 5 specific daily practices build a nervous system that does not need screens, what happens when you start giving those practices to a child who has been screen dependent? What happens to a nervous system that has been relying on external regulation when it starts receiving the inputs that build internal regulation instead? The answer is not immediate. It is not comfortable at first. But it is real, and it starts with something much smaller than you think. Here is what screens actually do to the developing nervous system, and why they work so well in the short term. A screen delivers dopamine. Dopamine is the brain's reward and motivation chemical, and screens, specifically the combination of bright color, movement, sound, unpredictable reward, and continuous novelty, deliver dopamine in a pattern that the brain finds extremely difficult to disengage from. When a dysregulated child is handed a screen, the dopamine response overrides the stress response. Cortisol drops. The nervous system calms. This is real. This is biological. And this is why screens work. But here is the problem. A nervous system that learns to regulate through dopamine flooding does not develop the internal regulation pathways that come from the slower, quieter, more effortful practices we have been talking about. It learns a shortcut. And every time the shortcut is used, the longer road, the one that builds genuine self-regulation, gets less practice, less reinforcement, less development. The nervous system is always building itself from whatever it uses most. A nervous system that uses screens to regulate becomes better at regulating through screens. A nervous system that uses nature, stillness, emotional vocabulary, mindful transitions, and physical grounding becomes better at regulating through all of those things. It is not about the screen being evil. It is about what the nervous system is being trained to reach for. If this is giving you a completely new way of understanding your child's screen dependency, not as a behavior problem, but as a nervous system gap, this channel is exactly where you need to be. Real science, plain language, zero judgment. Hit subscribe right now. Here are 4 Japanese practices you can begin today. Small enough to start immediately. Powerful enough to matter. First, 10 minutes of outdoor time every morning. Not a park trip, not a planned activity, just outside, before screens, before the day gets full. 10 minutes of natural light, natural air, and unstructured space every morning begins resetting the cortisol baseline before the day's demands arrive. Urban families can use a balcony, a doorstep, or a short walk. The outdoor nest matters more than the destination. Second, 1 daily silence window. 10 minutes where no screens, no background noise, and no structured activity are present. For young children, start with 2 minutes and build slowly. Sit with them through the discomfort of the first few days. The restlessness they feel is the default mode network trying to activate for the first time in a while. That restlessness is not a problem to solve. It is the beginning of something important. Third, name 1 feeling out loud every day. Once. During a real moment. Not a lesson. Not a conversation about emotions. Just a single accurate sentence during an ordinary moment. You seem frustrated right now. That looked disappointing. You are really excited about this. 1 named feeling per day builds the vocabulary that makes regulation possible from the inside. Fourth, give a 2-minute warning before every transition, before screens end, before activities change, before any shift that your child typically struggles with. 2 minutes of warning, the same words every time. This is the transition ritual, and within weeks, sometimes days, the nervous system begins to hear those words and prepare instead of panic. You did not fail your child by using screens. You were handed an empty nervous system toolkit, and screens were the only thing in it. Every parent who reached for a screen in a desperate moment was doing the most reasonable thing a person can do when they are out of options. The 5 practices that Japanese parenting culture builds from infancy were never offered to you, never explained, never handed over alongside the advice to limit screen time. You cannot use tools you were never given, but you have them now. And a nervous system, even one that has been screen dependent for years, is always capable of building new pathways. Always. The calm you are looking for in your child is not something that needs to be imported from Japan, or purchased, or downloaded, or figured out perfectly before you start. It already exists inside them. It exists in every moment they spend outside, without a destination. In every minute of quiet, they are allowed to simply sit inside. In every feeling that gets named before it gets too big. In every transition that is given enough space to happen gently. The calm is there. It is waiting for the conditions that let it grow. And those conditions are not complicated. They are just 5 things, done daily. In the ordinary moments that already exist. The same ordinary moments that Japanese parents have been using, quietly, consistently, without any particular fuss, to build children who do not need a screen to find their way back to themselves. That is available to your child too. Starting today. Starting with something as simple as 10 minutes outside and a window left unfilled. If this gave you a new way of seeing your child's screen time, not as a habit to break, but as a gap to fill, share it with a parent who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because your child's nervous system is still being built. And the building materials matter more than anything else.